the whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happening.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendenhall and he said he could make it.
Don't think this whole Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-vim.
No, my life from Rashad Mendenhall.
Right, you go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Hello and welcome to another episode of the LOC Report. We're back again and the co-host is back again, of course. How's it going, Chris?
Yeah, all good here. All good here. It's a very brisk, brassic, Baltic, shall we say, day here down on the south coast. A clear day, no less, but ish. But yeah, December is hit today. It's winter time.
Yeah, it absolutely is, and with the start of December, we not only have the beginnings of the end of the LOC regular season, we've also got the beginning and the resolution of the playoffs. It's all going to happen this month, so we're into the final month, as you say. The weather has turned, and this is when push comes to shove in the LOC, and it's obviously the nice time of year as well. So, it's good to be doing it. Good, but yeah, as you say, Chris, it is rather chilly at the moment. So yeah, other than that, but at least you've got a nice warm podcast for you to get you going. So we've obviously got a good show today. So recapping week 12 and previewing week 13 because the playoffs are drawing ever closer, as I said. So let's get to it. Let's get straight to the recap. Okay, recap. So we'll start on YouTube. Should pick it up in a second, hopefully. Okay, I think we're back. Yep, cool, we're back. Good, right, sorry about that, listeners. Yeah, technical issues there, but you didn't miss anything. So other than the intro, if you're listening on Apple Podcast or whatever podcast app you use, but that's fine. So yeah, we were just starting off with the marquee matchup last week, because yeah, it was a lot of twists and turns in the playoff race last week, Chris, and it was generally just a very high scoring week. 7 teams in total over 100 points, and a few of those teams cleared 100 by a fair benchmark. But yeah, sticking with the marquee matchup to begin with, we were bound to the lock this game as well. When we had a lock off, I went with Great Scott. You went with the Dream Team. Only one could have been triumphant, Chris, because this is really what's important. And the Commissioner with a block in a big spot here. And unfortunately, Chris, that also means one of the older for you. As Great Scott takes this one 111 to 89. Now, this was the reason this was the marquee matchup. There wasn't a lot. In fact, this was the only playoff game of intrigue last week where both teams had playoff involvement. And it was an extremely crucial one, because if the Dream Team won this one, they would effectively have clinched the division, regardless of what happened in Ixan's game. But with a loss, Great Scott moves to 1 game behind, and obviously depending on what happens in the Ixan game as well, depends if they're 1 game behind, so it completely keeps the division in play, prevents the Dream Team also from taking the number 1 seed, which they would have done, providing UR Gold lost as well. So yeah, 111 to 89 for Great Scott. Huge win. Trevor Lawrence delivered again. He's obviously been kind of holding the team back a little bit, but definitely part of the solution as opposed to the problem in this one. Still riding the Miami running back train as well, even if it does just rest on Mostert's shoulders at the moment. So yeah, division is thrown into chaos, and are there some cracks maybe even starting to appear for the Dream Team, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, they look a bit banged up at this point. You see there, Hill, Travis Etienne and Hall all questionable. But also it's questionable usage of those running backs as well. So we've seen them, each and every one of them go off in games, but none of them seem to have a regular usage, I would say, all at the same time. And I think that's the key thing, is that it's not all at the same time. Yeah. If it was all at the same time, then this team would be an absolute juggernaut. And there are weeks where that's happened, but yeah, it was definitely capped this week by those running backs. Not one of them not going off, and Justin Herbert being shut down by Baltimore. That to me is the difference in this game, because you look at the other side, and Lawrence put up a pretty decent QB score, but yeah, Mostert again putting up QB numbers, and the Broncos D putting up near QB numbers, plus handy from White and some high single digit scoring as well. It's not the sexiest way to get to 110, but it's effective. Whilst, yes, with Viv again to score nearly 90, bearing in mind across the team there's only 3 touchdowns. That's none too bad either. But yeah, it's a game that I think it's definitely what could have been kind of game if it wasn't for those 3 backs and say justice for Gabe Davis on the bench. Maybe he got him to 100.
I think, in fairness to Viv, he freed Gabe Davis for a period and then correctly locked him back in the cupboard with some of the scores he's had over the last few weeks. But yeah, that was a Gabe Davis game for sure.
Free game against Philly, that's for sure. So yeah, I think that there wasn't obviously a route to victory in this one for Viv. No. But yeah, one that I think he'll find if it's been let go. But great win for Jeff, keeping on going. 110 points at this time of the season is no mean feat, and yeah, he's definitely got some really powerful offensive weapons there that one of them's going to unlock each week, and it's great to see Lawrence picking his form up as the season's progressing, especially at this time of the year too. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, snaps a 3-game losing streak for them as well. Like you say with Viv's team, those running backs are a bit inconsistent. That they are capable of their days, but it's really the receivers, Hill and Lamb, that are obviously the linchpins of this side. So, and we've seen the Dream Team fade at the buzzer before. This isn't an uncommon occurrence for Dream Team squads, we must remember. So, I did think, and they've obviously been at the top of the power rankings sometimes with the bench, but again, maybe the bench is looking a little bit shaky, or it's hard to pick the one on the bench at least that's going to come through in a given week. So, yeah, we'll have to watch out for all that. History of this matchup all time. This is the second time these two have played each other now. And yeah, they split the series 1-1 because we took the first one. We'll go to the next game then, which I don't know why it's put me next in the running order here. Let's see if we can. I don't know what's going on here. 1 second. Let's go back to, because I'm not the next in the running order. It's clearly signed me out of the website, so let's just open this back up again. There we go. It is, yeah, it was, I can't remember what Ross's team was called last week, but they're called Art Attack now, so let's go with that. Against Bedetonators. Again, Bedetonators very much needed a win to keep their traditional playoff hopes alive. Again, somewhat dependent on the result of the Gridiron Gang game, but they very much needed a win to keep all options on the table for them. They started off with a 40-point deficit after Thanksgiving in Dak Prescott in this one, but they completely erased that and came back and won this one 139 to 115. Russell's back. It's a big result, and again, Ross, I mean, he keeps finding himself on the end of this buzz, so he literally cannot have any fingers left at this point. You do feel hard for Ross because, yeah, it's an impressive comeback. Let's say that first, but yeah, I mean, he's been a bit of the berserker down the stretch. It's been a team that's kind of finally come together. Obviously, Prescott's given him the good start. He's had a very good score on the day, and it's just fallen away. And I think his days as a berserker are ended. We'll come on to Bedetonators in a second, Chris. But yeah, with obviously Jonathan Taylor exiting this game, having that thumb injury, he's obviously already lost Mark Andrews as well. I think Ross has had his fun for the season. It's fair to say, Chris.
I think that's fair to say. And yeah, as we talked about in the last game. We talk about sexy stat lines. Well, this one isn't one either. Because you look at the points and where they're clustered, and yeah, you see those 40 points from Dak and 21 from Taylor, and well, you know, that equates to probably almost half the score. You know, the 16 and 13 from Diggs and the Patriots D are useful, but again, not a great deal else to speak about. Within that, yeah, some decent single digits, but you can't grumble at 115 points, that's for sure. Mm-hmm. But you have to consider where those points are coming from, and you know, Dak's playing really well, but I'm not sure 40 points a week is.
No, it's not so. He's going to keep them competitive, I think, in the sense that, you know, he's not just going to post rubbish scores each week. But yeah, the ceiling of this side is definitely gone now after losing Taylor and Andrews. And then moving over to Ollie's side of the ball, well, we've talked about Ollie's team. It's been running on fumes, Zombie FC for much of the season with all the injuries they started with at the start of the year. He's obviously done a good job of keeping the team, stringing them alive, getting to 6 wins entering this game, and obviously now 7 wins. But yeah, I don't know, it kind of feels like maybe with Kyron Williams coming back, it gives them that kind of little bit of star power that maybe they were missing, because he's been on the shelf for a while. And then you've got Rashid Rice, who's kind of maybe emerging, and Nico Collins again maybe starting to get back into the fold there with CJ Stroud and the Texans, and obviously Jalen Hurts was already the leader of this team but needed some help. So yeah, 139 points on the day for Bedette is, well, what do you make of them going forward?
Absolutely massive. But yeah, I mean, when you put up effectively 4 quarterback scores, so, let's go with 3 quarterback scores. It's always going to happen that way. To score 70 points or 73 points with 2 players, again, equates to pretty much half your score.
Yeah.
So that sets you on a nice path. But yes, I can completely get where you're coming from. I think that Rashid Rice stream was excellent. And yeah, we've seen flashes of Nico Collins when things are going well. He just tend to spread the ball about a bit there in Houston, but he's definitely the receiver of choice once he's fit. But Kyron Williams is the one, as you quite rightly say, to propel this team forward. I think you look at the bench and you think, well, what's the alternatives? He's played those alternatives while these guys have been injured. Well, Kyron Williams is going to get volume, going to get plenty of points. He's and being relatively fresh, coming off the injury as well. So yeah, I think there's a lot more to see from this team. I think that this is probably the ceiling for this team.
Not a bad ceiling, 139 points.
Bad ceiling to get, and yeah, if you can stay within that band of 90 to that, then you're going to be a very difficult team to beat at this time of the year. But they need a couple more wins. They still need to. They're not. I wouldn't feel home and hose just yet.
No.
But I think they're well on their way to be.
Yeah, I think again, not to jump ahead, I think they're still on the outside looking and in the playoff race, but they are very much in the thick of it. Despite that, where have my notes gone? Ollie picks that one up. He is now also 7-8 all time against Ross's team. So we'll go on to the next game then, which was that was a Founder Bowl as well, by the way. So the next game here, the Waypoint Bowl, Gridiron Gang against Bucking the Trend. Obviously, it was a divisional week last week. Oh, by the way, I picked Ross's team in that one. You picked Bedette, so we split on that one as well. But you get that one right, and I got it wrong. This one, we both picked my team, and boy, how were we right? Because we have another...
I saw double the score.
Yeah, more than double the score. Not actually that far off of 100 points ahead of Bucking the Trend. 158 to 69 point victory for Gridiron Gang. So I think that actually moves me up in the seeding as well with the Dream Team loss. As I leapfrog him and we're level on wins. So yeah, that is the new highest scorer of the season, which was beating my own score, which I'd set earlier on in kind of week 4 or something like that. This is the highest scoring week we've had since 2020 and the 3rd highest scoring week we've had since 2015. So very good week for me.
Huge.
Yeah, huge. Looking down the lineup as well, you only really Tyler Lockett let me down with the 3 points. It could have been even better. I had Jalen Waddle on the bench, he would have got me another 8. But obviously didn't matter for the result here. I don't really know what else we need to there's nothing extra or nothing else we didn't know about my team for this one. It's obviously a trio of running backs which form the absolute core of my team. Obviously Tank Dell has stepped in and been a real solid. He's arguably my best wide receiver. Josh Allen obviously had his best game, or one of his best games of the season. He had an above normal result as well. And then to top it off, obviously the Dolphins D absolutely feasted on the Jets on Black Friday. So it was a combination of lots of things, Chris.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty complete performance there. As you say, you've got more than 4 quarterback scores. You've got 5 quarterback scores in there, really, haven't you? So you should be able to get to that total. I mean, that's how it should. That's definitely how it should be. But yeah, freak scoring there, especially that 29 points on defense. That's no mean feat either. and yeah, when you get buzzsawed like that, then you can only hold your hands up, and it had to happen to Mike, didn't it? Who we mentioned on last week's pod had been much better with being scored against recently, but yeah, back to the early ways, unfortunately.
Yeah, and Mike's score, I think all things considered, Mike's score isn't even that bad when you adjust for Tua, who had a poor day, because as I wrote in the power rankings, that they're one of these teams. He's kind of the anti-Josh Allen, where Josh Allen just gets all of the touchdowns for the Bills because they don't run it when they get down there. He's either taking it himself or passing it. Tua is the anti-Josh Allen because he doesn't, unless he's corking off a long one, they're always seeming to be running the ball in with the running backs. Just a poor day there, and obviously didn't get much from the kicker and D, which doesn't help either. But yeah, not much to talk about for Mike at this point, so we won't dwell on this one any further. The history of this matchup, that is my second win against Mike now, both of them coming this season. So I am now 2-5 against him all time, I believe. Or is he on here? Yeah, that's right. Or he's at 5-2 against me, whatever way you want to slice it. On to the next game then. You are gold. Kate entered into week 12 with the number 1 seed, facing off against Forge Flies, coming off a nice win, and you went ahead had another nice win there, Chris. And I'm going to go ahead and give you one of these. I wasn't kidding, it was a high-scoring week. 120 points to 59. You are gold. Obviously not close in this one, but they drop a huge opportunity they would have clinched a playoff spot. Of some description with a win here, so big missed opportunity potentially for them, but they no way they could have won this one even if they did pick the optimal lineup, because 120 points by your side, Chris. We both picked you here as well, I mean, you have kind of picked up Ross's role as the berserker, I think, because this is two playoff weeks, two teams in a row now, playoff teams in a row now that you've absolutely downed.
Absolutely, and say it's almost as though it's the reverse curse. Being played on You Are Gold there. Yeah, another great week for me. Again, it could have been one of those rarity of one player away from a full double digit week, but we don't dwell on that too much because there's some real good scores in there, and yeah, as you quite rightly said, finally things are coming into place. Touchdowns are there. That's the main thing. You look at Ridley and Ayuk again, both scoring second week in a row. Derrick Henry scoring, being the focal point of that offense. Kyler's coming alive. And then special. Let's say Ramondre Stevenson, by the way, comeback player of the second half of the year. Did absolutely sod all first half, and then
I've literally written in my notes here, your team is actually playing like it's looked like on paper all season long now.
Absolutely. This is what I thought I would get, and that's the frustration that's sort of come on a bit too late. But yeah, and say kicker and defense have been there for me all year. Whilst the other side, it didn't start well with the 1 point on Thanksgiving for Ollie and the Lions D, but yeah, I didn't get much better from there really. Purdy didn't put up great numbers. Pollard was the only real shining example in the skill players. We didn't see Antonio Brown go off. We didn't see Jordan Addison go off. We saw a little bit on the bench there of other guys, but are you really going to play Sam Laporte? Well, I keep coming back to that, and it's quite effective, but are you really going to do that? It really is refreshing to see finally some signs of life from my team, and I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get to 6 wins. Let's see how we go. But yeah, I definitely dropped a couple of my own stupidity this year, but yeah, it's good that it's finally looking like a team I can be proud of.
Yeah, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And just to finish off with your gold, I think that this is the team. They are what they are. We know what they are at this point. It was on the bad side of their day, but on a day where Purdy and the kicker and the defense don't necessarily have the best of days, this is what they are because the skill positions. This is kind of what it has been for much of the year. So, albeit maybe on a bit of the lesser side of it. So, history of this matchup all time. Forge Flyers, you are now 6-4 all time against you are Gold. Next game then, Pakistan. So with that loss, it opens the door for Pakistan to potentially retake the division and the number 1 seed, of which an opportunity they do not pass up with 101 to 55-point victory over Tom's Tyrants. I picked Pat in this one. You picked Tom, Chris. So we split again on that one. But a good way to get back on the horse for Pat. He overcame the poor start to the game. I think he didn't do too well on Thanksgiving. Nailed the quarterback choice once again. Stroud was the optimal choice over Jared Goff. Not that it would have changed the result there, and even still, but I had some options on the bench. So nice deep team. Pat's team is solid. We know that. It retakes number 1 seed, and we'll see in the matchups. There's a juicy one this week, but for Tom's team, I mean, they are properly on the beach at this point, I think.
Tom's team are on the beach. They're dead in the water. They've gone, and unfortunately, this team hasn't. It looks better on paper than it has been in reality this year. With not having a quarterback this week didn't really help. Obviously, we see Jordan Love on the bench with his 32 points, but it's difficult to gauge these things. I have to say I'm very impressed with Pat's team. We said that it would be very difficult to come back from effectively being more than a man down. You're minus 1 point down.
Well, it was Charbonnet, Patterson, Dylan from Thanksgiving, so that was only about 12, 13 points between them. Yeah.
So to then put up with Stroud and DJ Moore and the guy, the Saints and the 2 guys, Alami and Kamara off the Saints, and then the Ravens D, to put up the numbers that they have is very impressive. And all good double digit scores, but 34 points from CJ Stroud, helps to underline that. And this could very well be Pat's year, Nath.
Could be, yeah.
It could be it. We're going to get a winner we haven't had for a while, and as you say, I think that team is deep enough, in form enough, and working well enough to have a real shot. Especially now you are Gold on the slide of being able to get to where they want to be. But it's going to be tough in that division because you can never rule either one of those teams out, as lucky as you are Gold is. Yeah,
no, indeed. History of this matchup, all-time Pakistan is now 7-5 against Tom Sorensen. Sorry, Chris, I didn't give you your flowers in your last game. You had no bench points, or very little bench points for the first time this week, and we'll cover that off later, but just wanted to point that out. Finally. And the last game of the week then pitted Iksan against Ben Necessity. So for Iksan, again, kind of the playoffs really started this week for them because they were so far behind in the points, or they're behind in the points forward race. And if they dropped another one in their division, they basically couldn't catch the dream team again because of the points advantage here as well. So they pick up a huge win here, 101 to 90 against Bare Necessities. Bare Necessities now lose 8 games in a row after starting 3-1, now 3-9. But Iksan move to 7-5, and we both picked up Iksan in this one. So it was just a solid day all around. Really, Chris, I think it was the kicker choice that kind of punctuated this win, because 19 points from Blake Groupie when you only win by about 11 or so absolutely makes the difference, Chris.
Absolutely right. And yes, Iksan have been used to a Justin Tucker consistency on kicker. Well, they might have found a new kicker darling on this team, and it could have been more. He missed from 50 plus as well. More than 19. So again, 2 quarterback scores on this team. In fact, 3 quarterback scores on this team. Really good. Gets them across the line. Christian Watson, good numbers as well. Yeah,
that was a good stream, by the way, because he has been pretty trash all year long. So
for sure, and it could have been anyone. Myers and Reed on the bench there as well. Could have been either one of those guys. He still goes with Alexander Madison after all this time. So just loves the dude. Eckler and Kirk, you know what you're going to get from them. Kirk, we talked last week about Eckler being stunted by Baltimore, and that was absolutely the case. But a solid Ben-like performance all round there, I would say. With 100 points, get difficult to beat. whilst I don't think it's a terrible performance. I think Lamar has not been the quarterback that he wanted to draft this year, and just can't get rid of a guy like that.
He's just boom or bust. You kind of take it. You just have to take your lumps with it. It's just
for sure. He's not as dominant Russian anymore, and I think that's a problem. But then good points from Bijan, who looks every bit the only real talent that Atlanta have at the moment, or at least a form one, and then Debo as well. Good points. But you're dead right. The difference between the kicker there and both the teams is quite vast, as well as the quarterback as well. You can't say
true, but
it's a sad and sorry state for Dave.
No, my dad is on the beach as well, for sure, with Tom at this point. So.
very much gone out of the contention a while ago.
Yeah, and Ben Assisty is now 7-13 all time against Ixan as well. So in the pick'em then for the week, I was 5-1, so not too bad at all. And Chris, I think you were probably a solid. Let's see, you dropped one there. You dropped one there, I think, and then you dropped the lock, but you got that one. I think you went there, and you were 4-2 as well. So yeah, both had a solid week overall, and obviously I got the lock and you didn't. But that's okay. We'll take a look at the around the league stats now, see if there's anything interesting popping up here this week. So I have beaten my projected score 6 weeks in a row. There you go. Great Scott has beaten their projected score 5 weeks in a row. The Dream Team was predicted to win by the widest margin this week, 5.31, but they lost, and they lost by 22 points in total, so big swing there. Ixan, they earned the win this week despite not scoring a top 30 scoring running back. That's Alexander Madison for you, Eckler as well, I suppose. Ben Assesties, despite again continuing to lose, they beat their projected score for the 3rd week in a row. Teams have won 55.6% of the time this season when starting the league's top scoring quarterback of the week overall, which I believe was probably Josh Allen last week, so that obviously checks out. But yeah, it is still surprising that that's only just a hair above 500. Teams have won 53.2% of the time when they throw no picks in a week as well, so again, odd that that's a coin flip, but they are. And Tom Simons probably wishes they had started Jordan Love. 32.62 points he would have scored, would have represented the 5th highest individual score of the week. You are not kidding, NFL.com. So with that then, we will move on to the league news. Couple of news on the injuries front. So Justin Jefferson has officially been activated from the IR, eligible to return from next week because he is on a bye this week. But that is pretty big for Pakistan at this point of the season, isn't it, Chris?
Huge, great player to have back in this time of the year. He's going to be a focal point in that offense. We know how much Pat loves him. Going straight in there, so I bring it on. That's going to really put him in a good place for the last couple of weeks. Really crucial weeks for him as well. Yeah, for sure. It'll be interesting to see what quarterback is throwing to him, and how much service he will get, because we've seen obviously in New York this year Garrett Wilson, how he's struggled for relevance. He's been okay at times, but and obviously JJ is better than is definitely better than Garrett Wilson, but Garrett Wilson's still a pretty good receiver. But I'd argue that the Minnesota quarterbacks are probably a bit better than what the Jets have as well. But it'll be interesting to see. Next one then, Jonathan Taylor, as I mentioned there in the recap, it was discovered there was a thumb injury that's requiring surgery, so he's going to be done for the rest of the year, for Ross's year at least. He'll be back for the Colts probably in a few weeks by the sounds of things. So that's just the other interesting one, which brings us nicely onto the transactions, because obviously with Jonathan Taylor going down, that created, Chris, a starting running back at a point in the season where you don't typically get one, an RB2, potentially even an RB1. One would have thought he would have been a hot commodity
on the waiver wire. Now, as I say, it's kind of unclear how long exactly Taylor's going to be out. They've not put him on IR for now. They're saying 2 to 3 weeks after his surgery, but you never know if these things are going to run longer. And we obviously saw what Zach Moss did earlier in the season without Jonathan Taylor. But Gridiron Gang, my team, wins the sweepstakes for him. $45, dropping Khalil Herbert. What do you make of this edition, Chris?
Yeah, I think this time of the year you got waiver budget, and it's very, very rare that somebody like this turns up on the waiver wire that you can use week in, week out. You're dead right. I think Zach Moss, when Taylor came back, was RB8 across the whole league. And you think to yourself, well,
he's still RB16 overall.
That's pretty. Bearing in mind, he hasn't played properly for 4 weeks or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's every bit to look forward to on this one. I think, and I think it's an excellent pickup. For those who had the money, it was a no-brainer, really. Well, or at least if we had the money, we're in contention anyway.
This brings me on to an interesting point. So I've got the stats of who else bid on him, obviously being the one that did bid. And my logic behind this was, well, I'm going to outbid Ollie and Viv because I had more budget than them. Because, part of this move was obviously my team, as we said in the recap, I have those 3 running backs already. This was a kind of a luxury addition piece on one hand for my team, but then I also kind of viewed it as a sliding doors moment. It's like, well, I don't really want to let anyone else get him if I can prevent that either. So my tactic was I'm going to outbid Dream Team and Bedetonators, and I went a little bit above that just in case anybody else thought the same. But I was not one of the teams with the most waiver budget available, but only Ben and Ollie bid on him, and the other 2 bids, Ollie bid 28, which wasn't even all of his budget, which was I don't know what it was pre the bid going through, but actually no, I think he might have even had a bit more than that because it's showing his 40 is here. So, and then Ben, he has $129 and he only bid 19, but they were the only 2 teams that bid on it. I was really surprised that A, nobody else was in them, and B, they didn't bid more.
I don't think anybody else either has the need, the want, or the desire at this point.
You're telling me some of the other playoff teams like Pakistan, who had it early in the season, sitting there with $87. Your Gold sitting there with $67.
There's no, I genuinely don't. I think maybe your Gold possible. I think Pat's team is pretty well rounded, especially with JJ coming back. But yeah, I mean, there's definitely that. But at the same time, I think some people now just don't want to shake their team on. They're used to what they're doing.
Interesting take.
And half of the league aren't in contention as anyway. So
I appreciate that point, but I mean the fact that only 3 of the 7 playoff teams even bid on him.
Somebody is ringing me. I can't quite believe this.
That's okay. That's fine. I can cover off the rest of the transactions so we do that. Let's see here. Fudge Flyers, they added Curtis Samuel for Isaiah Likely for $17. Just speaking of that, maybe Chris didn't want to get in the way of the Zach Moss sweepstakes there, because I find it hard to believe Chris wouldn't have used his quite large waiver budget himself to go after Zach Moss. Curtis Samuel, though, he's been solid. I think he was, until he got injured, he was actually cooking a bit with Sam Howell, because obviously we know Sam Howell passes the ball a lot, and he was kind of one of the best beneficiaries playing ahead of Jahan Watson there. So I get the ad, definitely better than Isaiah Likely, so obviously adds a nice option to Chris's team down the stretch here. And then the other one I picked out here was Igsan. They added Brandon Cooks for the New Orleans Saints defense as a free agent. I was actually bidding on Brandon Cooks. I had a $12 bid on him. I was quite in on him. He was actually, until the Jonathan Taylor news came out about the thumb, he was going to be basically my ad of the week. I would have got Brandon Cooks if it wasn't for that. So love this ad as a free agent, no less for Ben's team. We'll see what he decided to do with them this week. Really good ad there by Ben's team. You should give them a bit of a shot in the arm, I think. So that's that. For the transactions, we'll go on to the standings, stats, and milestones now. So no milestones for you this week. So we'll just talk about standings and stats. So looking at the Southampton division, we've got returning leader Pakistan. Wasn't long, only 1 week. They weren't the leader of this division, so they returned to the top of your gold after losing. Beyond that, Pakistan another number 1 seed again. Fudge Flyers and Tom's Tyrants both 4 and 8, rounding that out. Portsmouth division, the Dream Team now sitting at 8 and 4 with the loss. They could have moved ahead to 93 and virtually locked up the division or near enough. But instead, they allow Great Scott, who they lost to, and Ixan, who won as well, to kind of nibble at their heels. They're at 7-5 now, so 2 weeks to go. Interesting race emerging for the conclusion of this division, but the Dream Team does have a points advantage, significantly over Ixan and a little bit over Great Scott, and then Benessus is rounding that out at 3-9. Winchester division, Gridiron Gang remain at the top of this one at 8-4 after their win. Bedetne is getting a big win as well to stay alive in the playoff and traditional wild case race as well. They're at 7-5, but again, Gridiron Gang does have nearly a 200-point benefit over them. Then we have Ross's team at 4-8 and bucking the trend at 2-10. So the current playoff picture: Pakistan, Gridiron Gang, and the Dream Team in that order in terms of divisions. You are gold in the traditional wild card, and the points forward wild card, I believe, is Bedetonators now. So excuse me, I misspoke earlier. Bedetonators current holder of the points forward wildcard, and if the season ended today, they would actually play the Dream Team in the wildcard bowl, because with me getting up to Viv's record, that moves me out of the number 3 seed into the 2 seed, and because you are gold have the one additional win based on this year's playoff rules, they take themselves out of the wildcard bowl and send the Dream Team there instead, as it holds now, as if the season ended today anyway. Points forward wise, I'm the highest scoring team. I am by about 150 points there over the Dream Team, and then you can see beyond that there's a bit of a close race there in the bits behind. Chris has rejoined us. I think we're just going through the standings and stats. Chris just did the divisions, looking at highest scoring teams there, and I was just going to mention a point. So my team currently, Chris, 150 points ahead of the Dream Team. I was the highest scoring team last year. No team, I was quite surprised to see, no team in the LOC has ever had back-to-back highest scoring seasons. So I could
that as well.
I could be onto a first here, with a 150 point buffer over the last 2 games of the year. Looking down the bottom, you were off the bottom of the lowest scoring chart, Chris. You are now 3rd from bottom, in fact. Yes. And Tom's Tyrants moves to the bottom. I think we kind of predicted that in the debate corner last week. He's the only team under 1,000 points at this point of the season as well. Looking at the points against, obviously, but both Mike and Ross had a ton of points dropped on them last week, so they're understandably the highest conceded teams here, both over 1,200 points apiece. Then you can see it's fairly close in the middle, in the kind of 1,100, mid 1,100 point mark, with a number of teams there. And at the bottom, we still have a couple of teams who haven't even conceded 1,000 points. You are gold, and Pakistan, and even Ixan getting a bit of the luck of the rub there as well, only just over 1,000 points themselves. So the playoff race at the moment. So as I said, Pakistan Dream Team. Sorry, Pakistan. Pakistan Dream Team and Gridiron Gang, the division leaders. However, Dream Team falls out of the 2 seed. They move to the 3 seed because of my win, Chris. So if the season ended today, because You Are Gold has the 9-3 record, the 1 win ahead of the Dream Team, that would send the Dream Team to the wildcard bowl, facing against the Detonators, who have leaped into the point forward wildcard spot by 1 point over Great Scott. So it's really interesting to see the closing of the season playoff race, and obviously that means at the moment as well that Great Scott and Ixan are on the outside looking in terms of the playoff race. But as I say, 2 games to go. Nobody's clinched just yet. We can start to get some clinches this week, depending on where the results fall and elsewhere. But obviously, with a few teams at 7-5, Great Scott, Ixan, and Bedetonators, realistically, they all need to win this week to have a chance at one of the traditional wildcard spots, given their current situations, be that the division or the normal wild card. If they lose, they could not reach the normal wild card, and because of the points advantage, they would not be able to win the divisions either, probably. So, looking at the breakdown, my team remains at the top, 103-29 through the year. Another 11-0 week last week. I've had 3 of those across the last 6 weeks, and a 10-1 and 9-2 week to boot, so a pretty good run. But Detonators, I think they jump back up into 2nd here. Yeah, they do, with the 10-1 week last week, overtaking the Dream Team at 77-55 there. Then again, we've got the other kind of playoff teams around the middle there, not surprising. Then we got the bottom hand of the side again, no unexpected names there. Coach rankings, 2 teams still yet to leave 100 points on the bench through 12 weeks. That's my team and Ross's team. Then we've got a few teams that are only just over, but that knows your God bucking the trend. We go to the bottom, Chris. As I said, you only left 1.8 points on your bench last week, which is a season low.
Hey, it's getting better.
It is. And Tom's trying to make you feel better because he's conceded 43 and 25 points to the bench over the last couple of weeks, and then a few weeks ago 30 as well. So he's rapidly plummeting down these rankings here. So that's what's going on at the moment. So with that, we'll... Oh, and sorry, yeah, no, there was just one more thing I wanted to tell before you're on the phone, Chris. Did you deliberately not go for Zach Moss as a question, just not being as part of the playoff race and not wanting to... Yeah,
correct.
That's fair.
I want the competition. I'm not bothered about my own.
Noble of you. No.
Wins.
Yeah, no, noble of you. That's fine. Because I liked your ad of Curtis Samuel, by the way. I mentioned that we were on the phone, and then I also said that the Brandon Cooks ad was quite good. He would have been my ad if the Jonathan Taylor news didn't come out and the Zach Moss thing. I would have added him for $12. So Ben getting him as a free agent was a nice little ad there as well, I thought.
Absolutely.
We'll go on to debate corner now. Then for that we need John. Where are you, John? Oh, there he is.
Order.
Thank you, John. John is trying to buy a new winter coat. It's a bit chilly at the moment, as we all know. So yeah, understandable.
Can't do expenses anymore, though, can you?
No, he did ask, but politely rebuffed. The debate corner. I will just leave this one to you this week, Chris. And the reason will become apparent because debate corner this week is a simple one. At this stage, who wins it all, Chris?
Oh, no, big one there, I have to say. Who wins it all? Well, your team is the juggernaut that keeps on juggernauting, I think, at the moment. That's the thing. It's you scored triple-digit points in the last 3, if my recollection is correct.
Yeah. Not quite. Week 10 let me down, but other than week 10, since week 7, I've gone over 100 points every week.
Yeah, so there you go. So that shows you some clear form. I think that getting to the playoffs, no doubt that Pakistan and UR Gold will get in. I think based on their records and records going forward as well. But yeah, I it's either your year or Pat's year. But based on that scoring, I would say you're in a prime position at this stage of the year. Bearing in mind your team's only scoring more as the league's going on.
It seems that way, doesn't it? Yeah. And the Zach Moss addition to my already strong running back core, albeit maybe only temporary for the next few weeks. I mean, it's making lineup decisions for this week certainly a headache. But I would add one more legitimate contender into that of the Dream Team because they are the second highest scoring team now. We did mention that some cracks have been maybe beginning to form, but they have been very good all season long as well, and they would be the one team that you kind of mentioned we're going to have a new winner or one that's not won it for a while. They only won it a couple of years ago, so they could be the one flying the ointment with that. So we'll obviously see what happens with that. Alrighty then, so we'll get on to week 13 now, Chris. When we usually do the schedule, reveal and preview and stuff, and we kind of talk about it, but obviously we don't know how much relevance is going to be in a given week until the games start happening. This could be legitimately one of the most exciting weeks in LOC history because we have the Winchester Division battle between Gridiron Gang against Pedetonators, which is also a Founder Bowl. We have Pakistan against UR Gold, which is a divisional battle for the Southampton Division and potentially could dictate who gets to the number 1 seed. Who would potentially avoid the bye or not. And then we have the Dream Team against Exam, which again is the Portsmouth Division battle because if the Dream Team wins that one, they would effectively clinch a playoff spot. If Exam win, it throws that division into even more disarray. So crazy week. We do have some clinching scenarios this week. So the winner of Pakistan UR Gold effectively clinches one way or another. I think if Gridiron Gang beat Pedetonators, they clinch the division. Like I say, if the Dream Team beats Ixan, they effectively clinch as well, I think. Not quite, but it would be pretty much the case. So 3 huge matchups, Chris. And we also have Tom's Torrancewood Flyers, Ben SSD's Great Scott, which obviously Great Scott in the playoff race there as well. If they win, that obviously makes the division again interesting and a heart attack against bucking the trend. It is up to you, Chris. which way for the marquee matchup, but I think there is probably, out of the three, a clear one. But I'll be interested to see where you go with them.
The clear one, I mean, there are a couple of ones, I think, for there. I think, obviously, Gridiron Gang Bedetane, I think, for its closeness and over the years, it's been a great matchup. But for me, and they don't get on, neither team get in the marquee matchup very often, it is Pakistan, you are gold, for me.
Yeah. It's got to be. All right, then. Here we go. Marquee matchup for Week 13. The Rumble in the Southampton Division. Pakistan versus You Are Gold. Here we go, number 1 seed on the line. Get out your boxing gloves because You Are Gold and Pakistan are going to duke it out for the ages. The projected win here goes to You Are Gold, 108-88. And the reason for that is because there was already some points on the board as well, 51-16. So yeah, You Are Gold at the moment looking like they'll get that win. Wouldn't look up the number 1 seed, but obviously puts them in very good stead. Clinches playoffs for them, whereas it would throw Pakistan into a bit of a disarray, but still looking for the playoffs. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this game concludes, because the points on the board, courtesy of DK Metcalf 31, Tony Pollard and 14, and Jason Myers 5 for You Are Gold, whereas Pakistan got 16 points there from Zach Charbonnet. In terms of other lineup changes, let's start with You Are Gold. Sam Laporta comes in the lineup for Jordan Addison, who goes into bye, so he is fielding the 21 personnel this week. 2 running backs, tight end and 2 wide receivers, whereas Pakistan, they at the moment bring Najee Harris, I think, into the lineup in favour of DJ Moore, who's on a bye. I think AJ Dillon also drops out in favour of Josh Downs, so they are going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, You Are Gold are 8-3 against Pakistan, so they're off to a good start, and history is on their side. Chris, is it going to be You Are Gold taking it and clinching a playoff spot here?
Well, they've certainly put themselves in a great spot. And you would have thought that if I was projecting this before the game, I'd have said, well, Seattle have been on the bounce a little bit the last few weeks. They haven't looked like a team that can go and compete with Dallas, and they really did last night. But look at that from Metcalf, 134 yards, 3 touchdowns.
He did that on 6 catches, I believe, as well. Wow. I'm going to double check the stat. Yeah, it doesn't show them there, but I'm certain he did that on 6 catches, which makes that even crazier.
Ridiculous stat line. And then very handy points from Pollard as well on the other side, obviously for You Are Gold. But aside from that, I'm not hot, mate. I'm not hot. AJ Brown's banged up playing San Francisco at home. Not loving that. I'm not loving James Conner against Pittsburgh away. Not loving that. Sam Laporta comes in against New Orleans. Not loving that. Colts versus Tennessee could be interesting, but if they get run all over, then maybe I'm not quite so keen on that. And Purdy against Philly, well, I know that Philly have been definitely susceptible to a passing offense, but there's an awful lot in that offense that can be done against that defense there, I'm afraid. So yeah, we might have seen it top out a little bit here, and this is why I come through, because with Pat last week, this is exactly the kind of game that we said. Could he overcome being a player down and coming back? Well, can this team be resilient even without without Justin Jefferson, without Moore, who's been really good, without Kenneth Walker, who hasn't been. And Charbonnet comes in and does a good impression there against a tough defense. 15 points, 1 touchdown there. Excellent score so far. So, are we going to see CJ Stroud light it up at home against Denver? Well, I'd like to think that he won't stop there.
Tough matchup, though. It's a tough matchup.
Yeah, I mean, but this guy, he looks the part. I mean, if there's, if it was away from home, maybe I'd have said differently, but a tough matchup nevertheless. I'm not a massive Josh Downs stream fan. That's not great. Olave and Kamara against Detroit could be entertaining. Najee Harris, you never know really what you're going to get, but if you're going to play him against somebody, Arizona at home is probably not the worst.
They've got their new OC as well, who for the first time, I think in 58 games, ground them to overall 400 yards of offense, which is hilarious. Matt Canada never did that as OC, and Mike Sullivan does it in one game.
Yeah, so it can be done. But the questionable Riley Patterson there, still in.
And the Ravens D who are on a bye, he'll obviously solve that.
So you've got to change that. Look, I think this is going to be tighter than you think. It's all down to the quarterbacks for me, Nate. I think if Purdy has a solid game, then I think you are gold. Probably pip this one. If Stroud goes off like he has done in recent times, then I think with some of those skill positions, they'll get Pat across the line. If I'm going to call it right now, I think having a 35-point lead with two players is a pretty damn good position to be in, and it takes one quarterback score again to get him over. So I'm going to go with you are gold in this one.
Yeah.
Much as I've been singing Pat's praises, it feels to me as though he's going to rely on CJ Stroud a lot in this game.
Yeah, no, I'm going with your gold as well. I just think, the skill positions are what's been holding your gold back predominantly. He's already had had a very nice score this week. I think Purdy's probably going to do enough in that game in Philly, and the Colts D against Tennessee could be a real good play as well, because they've been a good D for Ollie for over the last month plus. And like you say, for Pat's team, I think a lot of it rests on Stroud's shoulders. I'm not confident in a blow-up game. I think he could still do well, but I don't think he'll blow up. And then I just don't know if there's enough from the skill positions, like you say, to overcome the gap that's already there, especially with the kicker there as well. I'm not sure Olave's going to play. I think he's currently in the concussion protocol. He has been practicing, but he does need to clear it. We'll obviously talk about the Charbonnet injury on the podcast next week, and obviously it doesn't affect this one, as you say, because he had a decent score here. But no, you are gold for me as well, so that will basically clinch for them. And yeah, we'll see what happens to Pat if that comes to fruition. Injury-wise, I mentioned about Olave there. AJ Brown, as you say, questionable, but he's going to play with Shaheed. Thigh injury, he's very iffy at the moment. I think it's kind of looking more likely that he doesn't play, if anything. And then AJ Dillon, I think he's going to be good to go should Pat want to use him come Sunday as well. We'll go on to our next game then. Their necessities take on Great Scott here in our next game. Great Scott needed to get a win to keep their traditional playoff hopes firmly alive. They wouldn't be fully dead, but the wild card would be if they lost this one, and the division, if they lost and the Dream Team won, would be over as well. So a win is what they need, and they need to avoid the banana peel against Bare Necessities. So as we know, on an 8-game losing streak, the projections currently say this one is 93-54 in favour of Great Scott. The reason for the low projection is my dad's team does not currently have a quarterback or a defense that isn't on bye. Looking at Great Scott's lineup here, so let's see. I believe they are unchanged. Yep. So he's going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and obviously my dad's team is unchanged at the moment as well. So also 30 personnel. History of this game: they would have faced each other once earlier this season, and Great Scott took that one. So that's the history there. Now, obviously my dad will hopefully I will be badgering him to change his team if not, because obviously we can't have this easy of a game for Jeff in such a crucial playoff race. But the QB options out there aren't great, Chris, and obviously my dad's a little bit on autopilot. Does Great Scott have a fairly easy route to victory in this one?
I think so. I think that Great Scott have been absolutely churning out the results in the last little while. I know that there's been a couple of hiccups along the way, but generally speaking, it's been a pretty consistent team, this one. And Trevor Lawrence has been the anchor to that over the last couple of weeks. Much better improved play, but yeah, there's some matchups in there which you'd like. So Rashad White against Carolina is excellent. Chargers versus New England is excellent. Raheem Mostert, I think at this point, is pretty much matchup proof against, say, playing Washington. He seems to bleed points. Achane
may be back, but I think that only lowers his ceiling. He's still obviously a very good option.
100%. Some Brown against New Orleans is not unbelievably good, but Jahmyr Gibbs may be.
I think Latimer's still out though for the Saints.
Even so, I say he is no doubt talented though. So but I don't think it matters a great deal because on the other side, there's some pretty. So everyone's away, which I don't like. Never like that. When you're hanging your hat on Marquise Brown, playing Pittsburgh, and Javonte at Houston and Bijan and playing the Jets D, it's hard work. So it's no matter who is played this week. I just think that I think the Great Scott are going to win this at canter.
Yeah, no, and I think this doesn't pass the mirror test for the locks, even if my dad had a complete roster, because, like you said, it's shaping up quite nicely. Just to add on, Rashad White's been a bit of an unsung hero, a really good draft pick for he didn't start off too great, but that was kind of more, they've had such a brutal schedule for running backs, but where the schedule is kind of lightening up a bit now, he's obviously coming into his fold. Coming into his own, sorry. Great Scott team is good. Chase is, I would argue, Chase might even be the weak link of this team now. And I think the fact that he's still in the lineup kind of goes to show that Jeff doesn't really have anywhere to go, because you look on the bench and outside of the other Miami running backs, which is we kind of already say affect Monster and kind of the ceiling, unless he's willing to play multiples of them, which you're probably not when you've got White and Gibbs as well. So it does create a bit of an issue, but obviously for this week, I should have no problem at all brushing my dad's team aside here. So I picked Great Scott obviously as well. Injury wise, Monster, veterans rest really for him. Marquise Brown, he's been pretty nicked up, so unclear if he'll play. He did play last week. And then A-Chan, as I say, he should be back this week. Didn't play last week, but they've just been quite cautious with him coming back from his knee injury, so he probably will return in this one. We'll go on to the next game now then. Next up, showdown in the Portsmouth division, also the Corona Bowl 13 rematch between the Dream Team and Ixan. It's simple for the Dream Team, they get a win here, they've pretty much clinched. But for Ixan, a loss would rule them out of the traditional wildcard and the division and effectively end their playoff hopes due to their points gap between the other teams. But a win obviously throws the Portsmouth division into chaos, as there would be at least two 8-5 teams. Depending what happens with the Great Scott game. The projections have this one going to the Dream Team though at the moment. 108-91. The current score 21-13 as well, courtesy of Lamb on the Dream Team side and Brandon Cooks, a couple of Dallas receivers on Ixan's side of the board. Looking at the Dream Team's lineup, there's a lot of cues there, but in terms of lineup changes, nothing at the moment for Viv, so he's still going with the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. For Ben's team, I think he's made a couple of changes. So obviously Brandon Cooks comes in, as does Cortland Sutton, dropping Alexander Mattison and Christian Watson to the bench. Mattison is on a bye, so he's going with the 10 personnel, a spread offense, 1 running back, 4 receivers. Viv's going with 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 receivers. In the history of this matchup all time, the Dream Team are 10-6 against Ixan. What do you reckon, Chris? Are we going to have an interesting week 14 in Portsmouth division, or is the Dream Team probably going to lock it up here?
It depends how banged up the Dream Team really are, I suppose.
Yeah, these are not necessarily real cues, I would add.
No, that's it. Certainly for Hill and Etienne, they're not. I think there's a bit of a question mark over Breece Hall, and if he doesn't play, then I guess you bring Singletary in, and you could bring McLaurin in as well in a good matchup for him too. So yeah, the Dream Team have depth. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Look, I think if everyone was fit, you got to say to yourself, well, there's some pretty good ones in there, pretty good matchups today. Like you love Hill against Washington, you love Hall against Atlanta, you love.
Do you love Hall against Atlanta? That Falcons defense isn't that bad, and that Jets offense is putrid.
Yeah, well, I said it. The thing is though, is that when you see so much of the defense, there's only so much they can take. So no, I don't mind that, and I think that game's going to be offensively not great. You're going to rely on the running backs a lot, both running backs, both sides of the for both teams in that matchup. But dry throat. But yeah, the quarterback's the interesting one for me. I think Mahomes and Herbert both had teams that, it's a difficult place to go. Green Bay this time of the year,
and New England.
That's it. And likewise, and New England is the same, especially for West Coast teams. So yeah, I think that's where the showdown could be, and the game could be won and lost, because say Ben's skill positions have been pretty much there or thereabouts the whole year. And you think, well, Evans against Carolina has been pretty consistent. I would like that Carolina team in disarray at the moment. Kirk's been pretty efficient. Eckler needs a game to get right, and potentially the conditions might be there. And then Courtland Sutton is back in and rejuvenated.
Justice for Courtland Sutton. Talk about
Indeed,
Justin for
Sutton.
Gabe Davis.
And I like the Chiefs deal. I like Groupie back in, kicking in the dome. So for me, this could. Ixon are a bad team to come against this time of the year, because they're going to put up some pretty good numbers. But having an 8-point head start, I'm going to have to go and get a drink.
Go get a drink.
It's completely and utterly seized up.
That's fine. You can think about who you're picking while you get a drink, and I'll.
Yeah, absolutely. I will, however, I think go for Ixan because of the Mahomes factor. I'll be back.
That's fine. Yeah, and while you're away, I'll also say that I will pick Ixan as well. I just think it shapes up a bit. I don't know. Again, Viv's team had a bit of a rough week last week. I could see another rough week this week. Herbert going to New England, that just smells like a trap game. It really, really does. For the running backs, we've seen that they can be a bit inconsistent. They absolutely could turn up, but if they didn't turn up, it wouldn't surprise me either. The Niners defense playing Philly, and Philly don't particularly love that either. And then for Tyreek Hill, now I'll be interested to see what you think about this one, Chris. So I think I've picked Ixan as well. I don't know if you heard that firstly, because I think the outlook for a lot of Biv's players this week isn't great. It's just a bad matchup week, or I'm not kind to them. And Tyreek Hill's the interesting one, because with Tyreek Hill, he is a bit banged up at the moment. He obviously injured his ankle. He entered the game last week with an ankle injury. Miami should really blast Washington. They really, really should. I wonder if he's not part of the points party to begin with. And I know he's chasing the 2,000 yards and stuff like that, but I don't know. A little bit of me thinks maybe they just give him a little bit extra rest. That's not really what you want this time of the year. But they've got the lead in the division and things as well. I don't know. Just I don't know. Have a feeling.
I mean, we've seen Miami score big numbers on teams throughout the year. I'm not sure that they're a team that's going to stop that mantra now. But there's every chance that could happen, and I think that
it's just about his health. If it was an odd, I completely agree. I just think where he's been, it feels like every week Tyreek Hill is leaving the game with something and then coming back in and playing through it. It just seems like an opportune game for me if they get the points on the board to just let him sit down and they'll just take care of business.
Yeah.
He could get the points on the way to that. I'm not saying he obviously wouldn't, but I'm saying if he doesn't do that, I think his opportunities might be capped if that kind of scenario comes to pass.
I think that's a completely logical argument.
Yeah.
I think that game could be a bit of a pass fest as well. We don't like.
It's going. Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah.
So as well as obviously Miami's offense is obviously a bit of a juggernaut. So that could be one of the more interesting games of the week, I think. And
definitely.
He's certainly going to play a big part in it. But your argument is certainly logical.
Good, glad I'm validated. Thank you. And then for Ben's team, I'm not particularly in love with Ben's team this week. Eckler's not been great. Sutton has been a touchdown machine, so I think he should be okay because it's a relatively good matchup as well. Green Bay's been improving, and then the Chiefs D wasn't great against the Raiders all teams last week, so I don't love that. Mahomes obviously hasn't been firing brilliantly as well, again, cold weather game, but he could obviously pop up. And then Evans has obviously been the bright spot as we talk about. It's not the best of matchups. I know they're a bad team, but we'll just have to see. But I still fancy Ixan to take this one here as well. Injury-wise, so all of the cues for the Vivs team, but I think all of those players will end up playing. On the bench, Judy questionable as well. I think he might be quite iffy though. Definitely want to check. Then for Ben's team, Jalen Reed, I think he might have a concussion or something as well at the moment, so he's quite questionable. Aaron Jones, again, he's obviously trying to make his way back from that knee injury. I don't think he'll play this week. And Blake Group, he tweaked something as well, so again, he'll just be one to check there also. With that, we will move on to the next game. And these two playing for fun here. Art Attack, coach on the underside, playing bucking the trend here. 4-8 Art Attack, 2-10 bucking the trend. So bucking the trend, obviously trying to avoid finishing last. The projections have it being quite close. 80-77 in favour of Art Attack, who already have 34 points on the board, courtesy of Dak Prescott. Looking at the lineup, I know Ross's team is unchanged. Actually, no, sorry, it's not completely unchanged because he has brought T. Higgins into the lineup. Dropping Stephon Diggs to the benches on a bye, but he does still have Jonathan Taylor on the bench. So that projection will go up when he puts another play in there. So at the moment he's fielding 13 personnel, 1 running back, 3 tight ends and a receiver, but that will definitely change. There'll be another tight end come Sunday for Mike's team. Changes-wise, I think Romeo Dobbs comes into the lineup. I believe, Michael Pittman comes in back off the bye as well. That drops Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs, who both have their bye weeks at the same time. Not good for Mike. And Mike is going with a full spread offense here. He's going empty set, 5 receivers, 0 personnel. There you go. Love to see it. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see here, bucking the trend are 3-2 all time against Ross's team. And I mean, this was you kind of feel for Mike. This is an eminently winnable week, it feels like, granted, ignoring Prescott's score. And of course, it's the week where both of his best players go on to bye.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's bad form. I mean, yeah, for me, it's a difficult mountain to climb, especially now you've got a 35-point deficit to the other side. And Ross's team's pretty solid. I know Jonathan Taylor will, as you say, will be out, so that does cap the upside a little bit. But it looks like Chris Godwin's going to be out the other side as well, for Mike's team as well. So that could be a bit terminal for his chances. Mike's not scored great in the last few weeks. I just don't see, aside from Tua and maybe a bit of Hopkins, maybe where the points are going to come from there. I think riding Dak Prescott with a few performances below that might get Ross across the line in this quite low scoring, quite gritty game.
Yeah, no, I don't think we need to add much more onto this one. I think, as you say, you take where the points in the bag are at the moment, and that's with Ross's team. He should have T. Higgins back. He's looking better for this week, but with Jake Browning, I don't really know how much that's worth. So, obviously, Kelsey and Kittle, he's going to be leaning on there, and maybe the Patriots defense as well. As you say, for Mike's team, there could be some points there. Obviously, Tua could have a great day. He's not been the best lately either, and then definitely some of those receivers could pop up there, but unless Tua nets off Prescott, it's probably unlikely to make a difference on the day. Injury-wise, T. Higgins definitely wants to keep an eye on. Jonathan Taylor, he is doubt. I don't know why he's not been ruled out, because he's definitely not playing after having thumb surgery. And then, as you say, with Godwin looking very iffy at the moment as well. We'll go on to our next game. With that, I need to bring back the jingles in order to do that. So, where are my jingles gone? There they are. Here we go. Gridiron Gang take on Bedenators in a Founder Bowl in a fight for the win to the division. A win for Gridiron Gang would clinch the division and clinch a playoff spot to boot, whereas a win for the Detonators throws the division down to the last week of the season. Projections have this one going Gridiron Gang's favour, 105-89, 15 points on the board as well, courtesy of Brandon Aubrey. The kicker for Dallas on Thursday Night Football. For Gridiron Gang, Russell Wilson comes in the lineup for Josh Allen, who's on a bye. Jalen Warden comes in for Tyler Lockett. And Zach Moss comes from the waiver wire to the starting lineup for David Montgomery. So Gridiron Gang going with the 30 person at the moment. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. For the Detonators, let's see here. I think they are unchanged in terms of skill positions. Yep, they are. So they're going with the 30 personnel as well. 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. But Detonators are 12-7 all time against Gridiron Gang. Will the Detonators take this Winchester division down to the final week, Chris?
No. tough matchup for 3 key guys for them. I even go as far as saying it's 4 key guys for them. Hurts, Nico Collins, tough. Kyron Williams, tough matchup, even though they're at home against that Cleveland D and DeAndre Swift. It's to me, this falls just wrong for them, because on the other side, you've got games which I think could be quite preppy. You've got the Denver-Houston game, which could be that. Certainly the Miami-Washington game, which we just talked about. The San Fran-Philly game. I think San Fran's going to have a lot of offense in that game. Not saying the Philly's not, but I think again it's one hell of a matchup. Zach Moss, great volume, and Pacheco much the same. Plus the Dolphins D playing Washington, and we've seen Sam Howell get absolutely peppered with sacks all year. There's all sorts of ways to score in that game. I think that could be pretty wild. To me, your team is comfortably the strongest in form at the moment, and I don't see that changing this week. So I'm going to go for a comfortable win and lock for this game.
Ooh. Well, you know what, Chris? I'm going to lock myself as well. So there you go. We were on the same wavelength there. So,
absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I think this passes the mirror test, because if I had Josh Allen, like you say, I think I would have still been with it. It's only 15 points from a kicker. Jason Sanders could get that as well. But obviously, Russell Wilson being at the quarterback makes this matchup more interesting, because obviously Hurts completely capable of dropping 40 points, and it's a really spicy game then. But I think you kind of mentioned it. It's just the rub of some bad matchups there for coordinators. Kyron Williams against Cleveland, he's going to get the volume, that's nice, but obviously that defense has been pretty stout. Jerome Ford against the LA as well, they've been okay against the run game, and obviously their offense isn't necessarily the best at the moment. DeAndre Swift against San Fran again, that's not necessarily the best of matchups either. Nico Collins against Denver, he could well get the Satan treatment this week as well, which could shut him down. So it's a few tough matchups for Ollie, but the team is definitely looking in much better shape, and would not surprise me if it has a really nice day overall. For my side, like you say, Russell Wilson, he's been okay. I think he's 12 overall in the QB ranks at the moment. Gets a fairly good matchup against Houston. Like you say, Waddle has a pretty good matchup. It's the best matchup actually for wide receivers. Again, Tank Dell playing that tough Denver defense, but if Collins draws Satan, he could benefit. He's obviously questionable with the calf at the moment. We'll see what happens there. If he couldn't go, I'd bring Taysom Hill in, I think, is what I would do. And then, like you said, the 3 running backs, McCaffrey, Moss, Pacheco, all of those just scream volume. I think Jarrett McKinnon probably will be back for the Chiefs, but obviously Pacheco's been the lead runner with it. It feels crazy to me that I'm benching David Montgomery. I mean, before this week, I wouldn't have happened, but the fact that I've got Zach Moss, and it's all about volume, because I think Montgomery's still probably Montgomery has scored at least 1 touchdown in every game that he's played to completion this season. So it just goes to say, how good of an option Moss in theory is this week for me to even consider benching him, but there we are. And then, like you say, a good matchup with the Dolphins D as well, and obviously the 15 points in the bag from the kicker. So yeah, I'm going on my team there as well. From an injury perspective, Murray Cooper injured his ribs in last week's game, but he's going to play this week. Tank Dell, as I say, that calf injury, did practice on a limited basis yesterday, so should be fine. Deontay Johnson, I think he's going to be okay for Sunday as well. Other than that, clean bill of health for Ollie. So we'll go on to the last game of the week now then. Tom's Tyrants takes on Forge Flyers here in a battle of the 4-8 teams looking to close the season strong. Projections say Forge Flyers with a 2-game win streak will do just that, 85-61. Currently you've got 3 points in the bag, which is low for Cowboys D standards, but still projected to have the win. Lineup wise for you, Chris, Sam Howell comes into the lineup over Kyler Murray. Curtis Samuel also comes in favour of Kareem Hunt, so you are going with 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. For Tom's Tyrants, team is unchanged at the moment, I think, as they've still got their quarterback on the bye, so they're rolling out with 10 personnel at the moment, 1 running back and 4 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, Forge Flyers, you are 8-9 against Tom's Tyrants, so a fairly close series. Now, obviously, Tom's going to bring in Jordan Love here. Is it going to make a difference though, Chris, is the question.
I'm not sure that it is, and I think that there's a lot of players that are in funk here a little bit. But, you know, you look down there, Thielen's down in an offense without a head coach. Playing Tampa have been pretty good. Garrett Wilson's got no quarterback. Keenan Allen is banged up and playing away in New England. Cooper Kupp's against the number 1 defense in the league.
Cooper Kupp ain't been it as well this season.
And he's
just not been
dead
healthy.
right there.
Yeah.
But that ain't going to change this week. And then BJ might be the only.
Brian. This is Brian.
Sorry, no, it's Brian Robinson. It's late in the day, man. Is it? Brian Robinson is the only one left, and even then, you've got to hang your hat on a guy like that who could be completely game scripted out later on in the game. Steelers versus Arizona, though, might be okay. For me, I'm as strong as I've been the last little while. Murray comes out playing tough Pittsburgh defense away from home. So Sam Howell comes in and what could be that track meet. And then, Ridley, Ayuk, say again, plenty of offense there. I'd have thought Ridley's finally found his stride, and again, a home matchup. Henry, is going to be used. Samuel's going to be targeted, no doubt. I hope that'll pay off as that stack. And then Ramondre Stevenson is the offense at the moment, or at least the one to keep him going. Brandon McManus has been a great pickup. Easy for me this week, Nathan. I'm going to go for myself. I'm finally finding the confidence to do that. I'm not sure that Tom can. Tom's team has been pretty much dead in the water for 3 weeks, and I don't think it's going to change now.
No, yeah, I'm picking your team as well. And to be honest, this would have, if I didn't lock myself, I would have locked your team for the 4th game straight as well. So that gives shows my confidence in your team. But no, I like it because Sam Howell, look, he might not pile the points up, but the amount of volume he gets in terms of pass attempts is ridiculous. So that basically guarantees a floor. Like you say, Samuel, earlier in the season, certainly before he got injured, was a guy that he was focusing in more and more on. So with him being back and getting a bit healthier as well, like that. Henry's good for a touchdown. I think, like you say, Ayuk's been pretty elite all year long. Ridley loves Zay Jones. Zay Jones is playing, so play Calvin Ridley. Like you're saying, Stevenson again is the only good thing about the Patriots offense at the moment. So solid team on your side for the and then as you said for Tom's team on the beach, disarray. Jordan Love comes in. He has been better of late. Will the Chiefs undo him? Obviously, the Chiefs' defense, as I said, been pretty good until they played the Raiders last week. So that will definitely be kind of a flashpoint of this game for what way it's going to go. But then beyond that, it just doesn't matter because I can't see any of those players there really doing much at all. Thielen has in theory got the nice matchup, and you never know when you get the new coach bump typically, but I don't know if that's really going to matter for this Carolina team. So quite easily your team for me as well. Injury wise, Keenan Allen very questionable, I would say at the moment. I think it might be a shoulder injury he's dealing with. He's not practiced the last couple of days, so definitely one to watch. Kareem Hunt questionable, probably more just veterans rest. I think Dalton Schultz is dealing with a no, I don't know what it is, but he's not practicing and he's probably not going to play. And Michael, you're not going to play him anyway. And then Michael Wilson has been ruled out already with his shoulder injury that he's suffering with. And that brings us to the end of the previews. So if all things go into plan, this is going to be a very dull week, Chris, because we all agreed on our picks. So and even had and had the same lock as well. So it doesn't happen too often, but there you go. So that does bring us to the end of the show. Thank you for joining. As always, Chris.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Good. I am now no longer testing positive for COVID, so if you would like to watch the games at mine on Sunday, you are once again welcome to do so without risk of being contaminated. But beyond that, have a good weekend. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.